My name is Rachel Miller. I'm 32, and I never expected my parents to kick me out while I was battling cancer. If you've ever felt overlooked or betrayed by your own family, leave a comment and tell me where you're watching from. Like this video and subscribe for more stories like this. I just started my second round of chemotherapy when my mother knocked on my bedroom door with an envelope in her hand and a blank expression on her face. "We think it's best if you go stay with a friend for a while," she said, her voice flat, avoiding eye contact. I was still in my robe, still nauseous from that morning's treatment, still her daughter. At first, I thought I misheard her, but no, she'd said it clearly. And when I asked why, she mumbled something about keeping the house calm for my sister Lauren's baby shower. That was the day I stopped believing I was part of this family. Growing up, I always knew Lauren was the favorite. She was the bubbly one, the one who brought home dance trophies and glowing report cards. I was more reserved, studious, always tired, always reading. When Lauren needed braces, Dad picked up a second job. When I needed therapy after a car accident, Mom said, "Try journaling." Still, I thought things would change as we got older. When I was diagnosed with lymphoma 6 months ago, I moved back into my childhood home because I couldn't afford treatment and rent. They agreed, reluctantly, to let me stay in the guest room. But things got tense fast. "You don't look sick," Lauren said once, when I lost my appetite at a family dinner. Dad added, "You've always been a little dramatic, Rachel." Mom just stayed quiet. And yet, I kept hoping for compassion. For once, I wanted to be the one they looked after. I remember the day I shaved my head, when the hair started coming out in clumps. Lauren watched from the hallway, laughing softly into her phone. "She looks like Mr. Clean," she giggled. No one corrected her. No one said a word. Then came the envelope. It wasn't just a polite nudge. It was a lease termination form. They'd given me 1 week to leave. No discussion, no apology, just a deadline. I spent that night on the bathroom floor, weak and cold, trying to convince myself I was imagining all this. But the next morning, the hallway was filled with balloons, pink and gold. "Welcome, baby Sophia," the banner read. The entire house was transformed, like I'd never been there, like I'd never been sick. I found a place, barely. A friend from college offered me her spare room. It wasn't ideal, but it was safe, quiet, and it gave me time to think, to remember every moment they'd made me feel invisible, and to begin planning something I hadn't allowed myself to consider before, walking away for good. When I moved in with my college friend Marissa, I carried just 2 bags. One had clothes, the other had medical paperwork. She didn't ask questions, just set me up in her spare room, gave me the Wi-Fi password, and stocked the fridge with ginger ale and crackers. That's when I realized something heartbreaking. This woman, who hadn't seen me in years, showed me more compassion in 24 hours than my family had in months. Chemo was hell. It stripped away everything, my energy, my taste buds, my hair. But in the silence of Marissa's apartment, something unexpected returned. My clarity. I started journaling every night, not to heal, but to remember, because memory fades faster than we expect, and I never wanted to forget how they treated me when I needed them most. I remembered how they missed my high school play because Lauren had a dance recital, how they left my college graduation early because, quote, traffic would be bad, how Dad once told me, "Not everyone's meant to be in the spotlight, Rachel, learn to support others," how Mom always said, "Don't take things so personally." I used to tell myself they were just trying their best, but now I saw the truth. They weren't failing. They were choosing not to show up, choosing Lauren, choosing silence. And Lauren, she'd always been competitive, even when there was no contest. If I won an award, she'd find a way to one-up it. When I got into grad school, she announced her engagement that same week. When I bought my first car, she told everyone it was a hand-me-down, even though I paid for it myself. I tried to call my parents after a particularly rough chemo session one night. I didn't want to cry, I just wanted to hear a familiar voice. Mom picked up and sighed. "We're really busy with Lauren's nursery right now. Can this wait?" I hung up, and it never rang again. That was my emotional collapse. Not the hair loss, not the vomiting, not even the eviction. It was that moment, when I reached for love and found a wall instead. But I wasn't going to die feeling like a burden, so I focused on healing in every way I could. My oncologist said I was strong, stronger than some who had more support. I clung to that. Every lab result became a milestone. Every treatment survived felt like a small rebellion. Then, something unexpected happened. A nurse told me about a grant for young adult cancer survivors, specifically for those displaced by family or financial hardship. I applied. 2 weeks later, I got a call. Not only did I receive the grant, they wanted me to speak at their annual fundraiser. I said yes, not for revenge, not for recognition, but because I was tired of being invisible. That event would change everything, but I didn't know it yet. The fundraiser was held at a hotel ballroom downtown, the kind with mirrored walls, velvet drapes, and flower arrangements taller than me. Marissa helped me get ready. We picked out a navy wrap dress, one that made me feel less like a patient and more like a person. She even did my makeup, soft and simple. When I looked in the mirror, I didn't see someone who was sick. I saw someone who had survived. The theme of the evening was strength in silence. How fitting, I thought. My entire life had been a masterclass in swallowing pain. When it was my turn to speak, I walked onto the stage with my heart pounding. I hadn't told Marissa what I planned to say. I hadn't told anyone. I just knew I had to tell the truth. "I'm Rachel," I began. "I'm 32 years old. And 6 months ago, I was diagnosed with lymphoma. 2 weeks after my diagnosis, I moved back into my childhood home. I thought it would be safe, supportive." I paused. But instead, my parents gave me a week to leave because my sister was planning a baby shower. A few gasps rose from the audience. I took a breath and kept going. I spent the next few months rebuilding my health, my trust, my sense of self. And in that time, I learned that family isn't always blood. Sometimes, it's the people who show up when it's inconvenient, when it's messy, when there's nothing in it for them. I looked straight ahead. I'm not here to shame anyone. I'm here to remind you that rejection doesn't define your worth, and that survival is its own kind of power. The room erupted into applause. After the speech, people came up to me, hugging, thanking, crying. A journalist from a local paper asked to interview me. I said yes. The next morning, the article ran with the headline, "Young Survivor Reclaims Her Power After Family Abandonment." It spread faster than I expected. Shared, reposted, commented. I didn't think my parents would see it, but they did. Mom texted first. "Was that about us?" Then Dad, "You didn't have to make us look bad." No apology. No regret. Just bruised egos. Lauren chimed in hours later. "Hope it was worth it." I didn't reply. I'd said everything I needed to on stage. And yet, the universe wasn't done shifting. 2 weeks later, I received a call from the same organization. They were launching a new initiative, housing grants for young adults undergoing treatment. They wanted me to co-chair the board. They were offering me a paid position, health benefits, a platform, a purpose. All the while, my parents remained silent. I knew why. The illusion had cracked, and they weren't used to being seen clearly. But I had more clarity now than ever before. And I wasn't done. 3 months after the fundraiser, I walked into my new office. It was small, but it was mine. A desk with clean lines, a plaque with my name, and a framed quote Marissa gifted me. "Some storms come to clear your path." The nonprofit's new housing initiative had taken off faster than expected. I wasn't just sharing my story anymore. I was helping others find safe places during the hardest times of their lives. Each survivor I met reminded me of something I'd nearly forgotten. I wasn't alone, and I wasn't weak. By then, my treatment had ended. My scans were clean, and though the exhaustion lingered, I felt stronger than I had in years, not just physically, but emotionally. I was no longer surviving my family. I was outgrowing them. Then came the letter, a cream-colored envelope, no return address. Inside, a wedding invitation. Lauren and her fiancé were getting married in the fall. The invitation read, "To Rachel Miller, out of respect for family harmony, we kindly ask that you refrain from attending." My hands trembled. They didn't even bother pretending. Enclosed was a note scribbled in my mother's familiar cursive. "You know how sensitive your sister is. Let's not create any distractions." Distractions. That's what I was now. Not a daughter. Not a sister. Just a disruption to their perfect little narrative. I placed the card down slowly. And then I laughed. A deep, quiet laugh that felt like years of buried pain rising to the surface. I didn't cry, didn't rage. I'd already done all of that. Now I just felt done. That night, I wrote a letter of my own. But I didn't send it. Instead, I read it aloud at the nonprofit's gala 2 weeks later. "Sometimes, the people who raise you are the first to unsee you," I began. "But silence is its own story, and tonight I'm choosing to speak." I didn't name names. I didn't need to. The crowd knew. The donors knew. And most importantly, I knew. I shared my experience with ceremonial rejection, the kind that's dressed in polite language but soaked in cruelty, the kind that leaves invisible bruises. By the end, the room was silent. And then, applause. Later that evening, a man approached me. He introduced himself as the founder of a National Cancer Support Foundation. He'd watched my speech with tears in his eyes, and he had a proposition. They were opening a regional branch in my city, and they wanted me to lead it. Double my current salary. Full team. Unlimited support. It was everything I never knew I deserved, and I said yes. The new position changed everything. I wasn't just helping survivors. I was mentoring them, advocating for policy changes, speaking at medical schools and city halls. Everywhere I went, I carried my story like a quiet torch, not to burn anyone, but to light the way for others. One afternoon, as I walked out of a televised interview, I noticed several missed calls from an unknown number. Then, a voicemail. It was Dad. His voice shaky. Halting. "Your mother's not well. She collapsed at the salon. Hospital says it's serious. Call us back, Rachel." I froze in the parking lot. The last time he said my name was when he asked me to hand over my house keys. I called the hospital directly. They confirmed it. Mild stroke. Stable, but under observation. I thanked the nurse and hung up. I didn't call him back. Marissa asked gently, "Do you want to go?" I sat with the question, and then I said, "No, not this time," because I remembered how I begged them not to make me leave during chemo, how I collapsed from dehydration, and they blamed it on bad habits, how I sat in an ER alone at 3 a.m. because they turned off their phones. No, not this time. I sent a single email. I heard she's stable, wishing her recovery and peace. No signature. No warmth. Just closure. A week later, I received another message. This time from Lauren. It read, "You're unbelievable. She almost died, and you still made it about you. Don't even think about coming to the wedding." I deleted it without reading the rest. But a different message arrived the next day, this time from a reporter. She was doing a story on medical abandonment in families and wanted to feature my nonprofit's new housing program. We spoke for an hour. She was kind, sharp, curious. And before she hung up, she asked, "Do you ever wish things had gone differently with your family?" I answered without hesitation, "I used to. But now I just wish I had walked away sooner." The article was published under the headline, "Abandoned, Then Empowered: How One Survivor Built a Network for the Forgotten." It went viral. Donations poured in. Volunteers signed up. Even doctors reached out to refer patients. But the most unexpected moment came at a networking luncheon. A woman tapped my shoulder gently. "I'm sorry. Are you Rachel Miller?" I nodded. "I'm Dr. Singh, your mother's neurologist. She asked me to find you." Apparently, my name came up often, in regret, in confusion, in guilt. I listened quietly, then asked, "Did she say she was sorry?" Dr. Singh shook her head. "No, just that she missed you. Missed, like a train, or a deadline, or a daughter you threw away during chemotherapy." A month passed before I heard from them again. This time, it was a letter, handwritten, no stamp, just slid under my apartment door. I recognized the penmanship instantly. Mom's. Rachel, I don't know how to begin this except to say that I made terrible choices. I thought I was protecting Lauren's happiness. I thought you were strong enough to not need us. But I see now that I was wrong. Deeply wrong. I saw you on TV. I read your article. I felt proud. And ashamed. At the same time. I'm not asking for forgiveness. I just want you to know I remember your bravery. Now. Love. Mom. I read it twice, then folded it and placed it in a drawer I rarely opened. It wasn't an apology, it was a confession, and those aren't the same thing. That same week, I was invited to give the keynote at a national conference on survivorship. I stood before an audience of hundreds, patients, doctors, advocates, people who'd lived through all kinds of loss. And I told them the truth. I used to think being rejected during illness was the worst thing that could happen, I began. But it turns out the worst thing is believing you deserved it. I spoke about rebuilding, about choosing your own family when your blood lets you bleed. And when I stepped off stage, a woman hugged me tightly and whispered, "Thank you. I thought I was the only one." That night, I went home to a text from Marissa. "Look what just came in." Attached was a link. The nonprofit I helped expand was being honored with a national award, and I was named executive director. I stared at the screen for a long time. It felt like winning a war. One never signed up to fight. Later, as I prepared for bed, I looked in the mirror. My hair had started growing back, soft, curly wisps where bald patches once were. My skin glowed again, but what struck me most was my expression. Calm, composed, completely my own. That weekend, Lauren got married. I didn't attend, but someone sent me a photo, her walking down the aisle beaming. I looked at it and felt nothing. No anger, no longing, just clarity. She chose a life where cruelty was convenient. I chose a life where kindness was deliberate. We weren't on opposite sides of the same story. We were in different stories entirely. 6 months later, I stood on the porch of my childhood home. Not to return, not to forgive, but to close a chapter. Mom had invited me for tea. She said she wanted to talk. Just the two of us. No Lauren, no performance. I almost didn't go, but something inside me wanted to see it. One last time. The house that held so many unspoken wounds. The hallway where I once collapsed, ignored. The kitchen where my chair was always slightly out of place. She opened the door slowly. She looked older, more tired, but not fragile. "Hi," she said softly. I stepped in. She served tea like nothing had happened, as if time and silence hadn't carved a canyon between us. I let her speak first. She fumbled through memories, tried to recall birthdays, small victories, holidays we both knew she'd missed. Then finally, she stopped, looked me in the eyes. "I don't expect you to forgive me," she said. "I just want you to know. I see it now. All of it. What we did, what we didn't do." I didn't cry. I didn't comfort her. I just nodded. "Thank you," I said, and we sat there in silence. Two women who once shared a home, now sharing only the truth. When I left, I didn't look back. I didn't need to. Some stories don't need revisiting. They just need closure. Back at home, I unpacked the latest award my organization received. National Advocacy for Medical Equity. I placed it on the shelf beside my favorite framed quote. "Some storms come to clear your path." Then I took out a pen and started writing. Not a journal entry. Not a speech, but a book. Chapter 1. They told me to leave during chemo, so I built a life without them. And that was my final word. Not to them, but to myself. Not a scream, not a courtroom, not a microphone. Just a quiet, grounded decision to keep building a life so full, their absence couldn't echo anymore. Because the real power is peace. Have you ever had to walk away from people you once called family? Drop your story in the comments. And don't forget to subscribe for more stories about reclaiming your power. Send this to someone who needs to know they're not alone.